My name is David Lawless. I work as a Social Development Officer for Dún Laoghaire Down County Council here in Dublin. We were a partner in the SURE project network of the URBACT 2 programme, which concluded for us last November. In Dún Laoghaire we have a long history of working collaboratively and in partnership with both the communities and residents of our county, but also the agencies and organisations which work with them as well. An approach that we're particularly familiar with is using community development approach. We would feel very strongly that it is important to include the residents of areas in the planning and decision making processes that are going to affect their lives. We have been working with target communities now for maybe 20 years in Dún Laoghaire, and we find that it delivers most times a much better outcome when you've got all of the stakeholders, including local resident participation in the processes. Local people do not only have a role in identifying problems, but they also have an active role in producing the solutions to those problems and participating in the solutions to those problems. I think for any local support group to be effective in addressing its overall challenge and developing a local action plan, some of the key factors that I have found are required primarily are leadership. The importance of leadership in organisations is key. In my experience, where the senior management of organisations give their support and participate actively in the development of local action plans, all sorts of magic can happen. And where this leadership is missing, it usually creates a challenge and a difficulty. While we always try to get the senior decision makers in the organisations involved in the process, because ultimately they are the resource and decision makers. But sometimes this is not always possible. And for us, what we try and do is identify a key development worker within those organisations, somebody that we may have worked with on a different project who, while they're not the senior decision maker, they are very, very good and active on the particular issues. So we might try and identify an alternative person within an organisation who we can work with and who we can support. One of the strategies that has worked very well for us is that we try and identify some of the challenges that those particular organisations have and try and identify a way that we can support them in addressing their challenges or their issues, and in effect, by association, pulling them into the process and getting them involved in our programme. Organisations sometimes fear losing their visibility and their independence. We try and counteract this by being very clear about nominating lead organisations with the responsibility for delivery on actions, and we are very clear also that we will promote and give the credit to that lead organisation for the implementation of those actions. This we have found assists with the trust building process, and we have found that where organisations experience us giving them the credit for implementing their programmes, they are much more willing to work with us again in the future. We spent a long time developing a very balanced and appropriate local action plan for our target area. It was very important for our local support group that in designing and developing and producing the local action plan, we were very conscious that it needed to be balanced with some very practical, quick win actions that the local community could see taking place, coupled with some more longer term actions which required some significant investment in order to impact deep-rooted change that was required in the area. So we developed a balanced plan with a mixture of actions. We're not operating alone. We need to learn from what's happening in other countries around Europe. One of the real learning points for us in terms of new techniques from the URBACT project was the placemaking concept that we learned about when we visited Louvain-la-Neuve in Belgium. As part of the project, we had a presentation on placemaking techniques, which put interestingly how people use space before the design element of a process, and we were very interested in the creative techniques involving people in sketching, in drawing, in photography, to assist in designing how public spaces are used. The learning from that we then practically used by taking back to Dún Laoghaire, and we hosted a national conference here in Dún Laoghaire on the placemaking techniques in Ireland. The URBACT programme provides a great opportunity to develop those type of relationships that bring people together to support co-production, to support partnership working. That includes all of the stakeholders and vitally including the local people who are affected by the issues. The relationships that have been built up will last in our city for a long time after the SURE project.